You never know who you're talking to. That's the lesson Olivia Barker was about to learn the hard way. In the pristine lobby of Pendleton Industries, a Fortune 500 company located in the heart of downtown Chicago, people were always on edge. Sharpened heels clicked against marble floors, voices were kept crisp, and titles were worn like armor. But on that cloudy Monday morning, a young black man in faded jeans, a navy blue hoodie and worn-out sneakers stepped into the lobby, pushing a mop bucket, head down and shoulders relaxed. His name tag simply read, Jay. To Olivia, the company's executive assistant, he looked completely out of place. "Hey," she called, scrunching her nose. "You missed a spot back there. You janitors are getting lazier by the week." Jay looked up slowly, offering a polite smile. "I'll take care of it, ma'am." He rolled his bucket back without protest, unbothered by the coldness in her tone. Olivia sneered, whispering under her breath, "Ma'am? So ghetto." She turned on her heel and strutted away, tossing her platinum blonde hair like a banner of superiority. What Olivia didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that Jay wasn't hired to mop floors. He didn't need a paycheck. He wasn't an employee at all. Jay Pendleton was the only son of Charles Pendleton, the reclusive CEO who'd built the company from a single storefront to a billion-dollar empire. And this wasn't a stunt. Jay wasn't undercover for attention. He was testing the people in the company that would one day be his. He wanted to see who respected others regardless of class, title, or color. What he found instead was something far worse. It had started a few weeks earlier. After finishing his MBA at Stanford and declining offers from consulting giants like McKinsey and BCG, Jay decided he wanted to start from the ground up in his father's company, literally. He convinced his father to let him blend in anonymously to understand the company culture without special treatment. His father reluctantly agreed. Jay grew up privileged but never disconnected. His mother, before passing away, had always insisted he stay grounded, never letting money cloud his empathy or decency. He remembered her words every time someone like Olivia looked through him as if he didn't exist. But that Monday morning was different. That was the first time he truly saw the toxic culture brewing just beneath the polished surface. Olivia wasn't just rude. She was entitled. A queen of the corporate caste system. She prided herself on being the gatekeeper to the executive floor. No one got past her without her blessing. She didn't realize she was blocking the heir to the entire empire. Jay continued cleaning, ignoring the side eyes and quiet snickers from other staff. One intern whispered to a colleague, "He looks too young to be a janitor. Maybe he dropped out?" The other replied, "Or got kicked out. You know how they are." Jay paused. The words stung, but he didn't flinch. He made a mental note of everyone's names. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. Fairness. He wanted to know who to lift, and who to leave behind when he took over. Later that afternoon in the executive boardroom, Olivia bragged to the marketing director, Greg, about how she put the new janitor in his place. Greg, a tall, smug man in his late 30s, chuckled. "What, did he forget to bow before Her Highness?" Olivia giggled. "No, but he needed a reminder of who runs things around here. He's probably one of those diversity hires from a temp agency. You know how HR is these days." She didn't notice Jay quietly pushing his cart past the open doorway. He heard every word. Again. But his expression remained unreadable. He was raised better. He'd seen worse. And he knew patience was a power they would never understand. The next day, Jay was assigned to clean the 25th floor, the executive suite. It was the first time he'd be near his father's office. But no one recognized him. Charles Pendleton rarely brought his son around. Most of the senior staff had only seen pictures from old holiday cards, and Jay had grown so much since then. Olivia, of course, intercepted him immediately. "You can't mop here until after hours," she snapped. "This is executive territory. I don't want you spilling anything on the mahogany floors." Jay nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Olivia folded her arms. "Stop calling me ma'am. Makes me sound old. Just call me Miss Olivia." Jay nodded again, hiding his amusement. "All right, Miss Olivia." She rolled her eyes and strutted back to her desk. But just as she turned the corner, she bumped directly into Charles Pendleton himself. "Olivia," he said with a furrowed brow. "Good morning." Olivia immediately transformed into her most polished self. "Mr. Pendleton." "Good morning, sir. I didn't expect to see you here so early." Charles gave a thin smile. I live here practically. Then his eyes drifted past her to Jay, who was carefully wiping down the hallway baseboards. Jay stood up and gave a slight nod to his father. Morning, he said calmly. Charles held his gaze just long enough to send an invisible message. He responded, Morning. Olivia blinked. Do you know him? She asked curiously. Charles hesitated. We've met. And then walked into his office without another word. Olivia stood there, confused but too arrogant to connect the dots. Jay went back to mopping with a small smirk on his face. It was only a matter of time. Over the next week, Jay began noticing others. Not just the bad ones but the good ones too. Carla from accounting, who always smiled at him like he mattered. Mr. Ojomo, the aging night guard who gave him tips about which executives were kind and which ones barked orders. Then there was Melanie, the intern who held the elevator door for him and even offered him lunch one day. He kept notes. Not just names but values, attitudes, humanity. Jay wasn't looking for saints. Just people who treated others with decency regardless of station. People his mother would have been proud of. Meanwhile, Olivia continued to escalate. She once handed him her coffee order, barking, Since you clearly have nothing else to do, grab me a caramel macchiato, extra foam, 2 pumps vanilla, 1 pump sass. Got it? Jay looked her in the eye. Got it? He never got it. But he made a mental note. One afternoon, Olivia was in the lobby chatting with Greg again, gossiping about how the CEO's been acting weird lately, like he's hiding something. She added, I bet there's some drama coming. I hope it's juicy. Greg nodded, maybe he's secretly dying. They both laughed, unaware that Jay was standing behind a column, hearing every word. Friday came. Jay had been with the company for 3 weeks. Long enough. That morning, Charles Pendleton called a surprise executive meeting. Every department head, assistant and floor manager was required to attend. Olivia was thrilled. She loved moments where she could sit near the power players, even if she didn't truly belong among them. The conference room buzzed as people filed in. Then Charles entered. Behind him was Jay. But not in janitor clothes. In a tailored navy blue suit, crisp white shirt, gold cufflinks and Italian leather shoes. His hair freshly cut. His posture straight. His presence electrifying. Olivia gasped audibly. Greg dropped his coffee. Charles walked to the front. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on short notice. I'd like to introduce someone very special to me, and to this company. He turned to Jay. My son Jaden Pendleton. He's been working here under the radar for the past month. Observing. Learning. And what he found? Charles paused, looking around the room. Will change everything. Everyone sat frozen. Olivia's face turned pale. Her lips parted but no words came out. She whispered, No way. Jay stepped forward. Good morning, he began. Some of you know me. Well, you think you do. Over the past few weeks I've been cleaning your floors, pushing your carts, holding your elevators. I've also been watching. Listening. And now it's time I speak. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The silence in the boardroom was suffocating. You could practically hear the egos cracking under the weight of reality. Jay's voice was calm, measured, but every syllable carried the weight of truth, the sting of exposure. Over the last few weeks, he began, I've been watching how this company really operates, how people are treated based not on merit or effort, but on how they dress, how they speak, and in many cases, on the color of their skin. Gasps echoed faintly through the room. People started shifting in their seats. Greg adjusted his tie nervously. Olivia stared straight ahead, her jaw clenched, knuckles white as she gripped her notepad. Jay scanned the room, making eye contact with several people. Some flinched, others held his gaze. Some of you treated me like I didn't matter. Like I was disposable. Like I was beneath you. His tone sharpened. You mocked me. You ignored me. You even humiliated me publicly. Not knowing who I was, you showed me exactly who you are. Charles Pendleton stood tall beside his son, arms folded across his chest, eyes trained on the senior leadership team he'd spent years building. He didn't speak, not yet. Jay wasn't finished. But not everyone failed the test, Jay continued, softening slightly. There were a few of you, just a few, who showed kindness, respect, humanity. You treated the janitor with dignity, not knowing he was the CEO's son. And that says everything. A murmur ran through the room. Carla from accounting bowed her head, tears welling in her eyes. Mr. Ojomo, standing at the back in his security uniform, gave a small nod. Melanie the intern looked stunned but proud. Meanwhile, Greg looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Olivia couldn't breathe. She was still processing. Still trying to calculate how this happened. How she didn't see it coming. Jay walked to the screen at the front of the room and clicked a button. The screen lit up with footage, security camera clips, hallway interactions, snippets of conversations. All of them featured Jay. Cleaning, mopping, being dismissed, laughed at, insulted. In one clip, Olivia could clearly be heard saying, "He's probably a dropout. These types always end up in janitorial work." Another showed Greg joking about Jay, maybe being part of HR's diversity quota. Each clip hit like a gavel. The room squirmed. Jay turned back to them. "This isn't about shaming anyone, but it is about accountability. My father and I made a decision. This company will no longer be a playground for the arrogant and the cruel. We're going to build a culture that honors integrity, humility, and respect." He paused, letting his words sink in. "And effective immediately, there will be changes." Charles stepped forward now, speaking for the first time. "There will be a complete audit of employee conduct across all departments. A new Office of Ethical Practices will be created, led by someone with a spine. There will also be terminations." That word, terminations, hung in the air like a loaded gun. "We've identified individuals whose behavior compromises the values this company will now stand for." Jay glanced at his father, then looked directly at Olivia. "We believe in second chances, for those who show remorse and growth. But some behavior is beyond redemption, especially when it's repeated and rooted in entitlement." Olivia flinched, eyes wide. You can't be serious," she whispered. "I've worked here for 6 years. You wouldn't even have coffee if I didn't schedule it." Greg leaned forward, voice rising. "You're going to let this kid come in here and make decisions like he owns the place?" Charles's voice thundered back. "He does. Or at least he will. And the way you treated him proves you're not fit to lead." Before anyone could protest further, Jay raised his hand. "Let me be clear. This isn't about me flexing power. This is about fixing a broken culture. And it starts now." He turned to the large whiteboard and began writing names under 2 columns. Integrity and review pending. Melanie, Carla, Mr. Ojomo, all listed under integrity. Then he moved to the second column. Greg, Olivia, Brad from IT, Maria from legal. One by one he added names, those who failed the test. A hush fell again. The room felt 10 degrees colder. Olivia's lip trembled. "You don't have the right," she whispered. "You're not HR. This isn't even protocol." Jay replied coolly, "Protocol is what allowed this culture to rot in the first place. Consider this a corporate reset." Charles nodded approvingly. "I trust my son's judgment. And as of today, he's been named Executive Vice President. His word carries authority." Everyone's eyes darted back to Jay. Executive Vice President. The message was clear. Jay wasn't going anywhere. And he wasn't playing games. As the meeting adjourned, people filed out in a daze. Whispers trailed behind them like shadows. Olivia stood frozen. Greg stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Melanie walked up to Jay and said, "Thank you for seeing us. For not letting people like them define this place." Jay smiled. "Thank you for being decent even when no one was watching." But just as he turned to leave, his father pulled him aside and handed him a confidential envelope. Jay opened it, his brows furrowing as he read the contents. "What is this?" he asked. Charles spoke gravely. "There's more going on than you think. The rot isn't just about rude assistants or lazy executives. Someone's been stealing from the company, and your little test may have uncovered more than just toxic attitudes." Jay's eyes widened. "Who?" Charles replied, "You'll find out soon. But you need to be careful. Because the person behind this might be closer than you think." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Jay couldn't take his eyes off the document in his hand. The numbers didn't lie. Millions of dollars in unauthorized transfers, vendor contracts padded with invisible line items, and internal accounts mysteriously overdrawn. It wasn't just financial negligence. This was theft. Organized, deliberate, and buried deep within layers of bureaucracy. "How long has this been going on?" he asked, his voice low and firm. Charles glanced around the now empty conference room and closed the door behind them. "Too long. But I couldn't trust anyone to investigate. Not until now." Jay took a slow breath, eyes scanning the breakdowns again. Whoever had orchestrated this wasn't sloppy. They were smart. But they made one mistake. They never imagined someone like Jay would get close enough to see it. Back in his private office, granted earlier that day, Jay spread out the files across the desk. Numbers danced in front of his eyes. Accounts payable. External audits. Internal memos. But one name kept surfacing across different documents: Olivia Barker. Not just as an assistant, but as a liaison in vendor communications. She had clearance to authorize low-level payments. Nothing big on their own, but when he tracked several of them over time, they added up. Nearly $2 million had moved through shell vendors she either coordinated with or had signed off on. It couldn't be coincidence. Jay buzzed his assistant, Melanie, newly promoted. "Can you bring me Olivia's employment records and any vendor correspondence she's had in the past 18 months? Quietly. Melanie, ever efficient, was back within 10 minutes. "There's something else," she said, frowning. "IT says Olivia's system login triggered a security flag yesterday. She accessed archived HR files and executive directories she's not authorized to see." Jay's stomach dropped. "She's digging," he said. "She knows her time's up." Meanwhile, across the building, Olivia sat at her desk with her screen minimized and her heart pounding. She had seen the writing on the wall after that brutal meeting, and she wasn't about to go down without a fight. What Jay didn't know, what even Charles didn't know, was that Olivia had history with this company. Deep history. Her mother had worked for Pendleton Industries back in the 90s, as a secretary to one of the co-founders. She'd been let go abruptly, accused of leaking proprietary information. Olivia had never forgotten. And she'd never forgiven. This job wasn't just a paycheck, it was her revenge mission. Her plan had been simple: get in, rise quietly, bleed the company slowly. And when the time was right, walk away rich. But Jay's little janitor stunt had thrown a wrench into everything. Now she was scrambling. She thought about confronting him, spinning a sob story, but it was too late for that. So she opened her hidden folder marked Leverage. Inside were screenshots, emails, recordings, names. She'd been gathering blackmail material for months. Executives who cheated on their taxes. Department heads who covered up HR complaints. Even an internal email chain where Charles Pendleton had discussed layoffs while giving his board members secret bonuses. "Let's see how high and mighty they feel after this," she muttered, attaching the files to an encrypted drive. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from a blocked number. "Still on schedule? Meet me at 6. She smiled grimly. "Oh, I'm right on time." Back in his office, Jay was piecing together timelines. Melanie hovered by the door. "You really think Olivia's behind the embezzlement?" Jay nodded slowly. "Not alone. There are too many moving parts. But she's definitely a major player." He pulled out a printed email from the records. Olivia had signed off on a consulting contract worth $300,000 to a company called Whitecrest Solutions. Except, that company didn't exist. Its website was just a shell. No contact info. No team. Just a landing page. Jay picked up the phone and called his father. "Dad, I think I've found the siphon." Charles's voice was tense. "I'm listening." Jay laid it out. The fake vendors, the matching timelines, the backdoor approvals Olivia executed under the radar. Charles was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Bring everything to my office now. We're calling in legal." But Jay didn't make it to the office. As he stepped into the hallway, the lights flickered, briefly, and then an alarm sounded. The building's fire system activated, but there was no smoke. Jay turned toward the elevators, only to see Olivia walking toward him slowly, a box in her arms, her smile cold. "Looks like I'm being let go, huh?" she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Bit of a shame. I was just getting used to this view." Jay squared his shoulders. "You should have left when you had the chance." Olivia's eyes gleamed. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm not leaving. Not yet." Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. "Let me guess," she said, waving it. "You found the fake vendors. The redirected funds. Maybe even that dummy company I made up. Cute. But I have something better, your father's secrets. The board's secrets. What do you think happens when this hits the press? Jay stepped forward. You'll go to jail. Olivia smirked. Maybe. But I won't go alone. Suddenly, security rushed in. Mr. Ojomo led the team. Mr. J, sir, we need to get you to the security floor, now. Someone just triggered a data breach warning from inside the building. High-level clearance override. Jay turned sharply. It wasn't me. It wasn't legal. Olivia chuckled. Oops. Looks like someone else is pulling strings now. Jay looked back at her, heart racing. Who else is involved? Olivia leaned in close, her breath cool against his cheek. You want to find out? You'll have to dig a lot deeper, baby Sio. Then she whispered, start with the board. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The moment Olivia whispered, start with the board, Jay felt the ground shift beneath his feet. It wasn't just about her anymore. This wasn't petty theft. This wasn't about power-hungry assistants or arrogant managers. This was systemic, rooted deep within the very structure of Pendleton Industries. And if Olivia was right, it meant that someone at the top, someone his father trusted, was in on it. Jay's heart pounded. Who on the board? He demanded. But Olivia just smiled slyly and slipped the flash drive into her coat pocket. You're smart. You'll figure it out. Assuming you survive long enough. Before Jay could respond, Mr. Ojomo intervened. We have to go. The security alert wasn't just a breach. It was a full system shutdown on the financial server. Someone's trying to wipe files. Jay froze. How long ago? 12 minutes, Ojomo said. And sir? The override came from the 27th floor. The executive boardroom. Jay turned and ran. As the elevator doors closed, Jay's mind raced. The 27th floor housed the private board offices. Only 5 people in the company had keycard access. His father. The CFO, Mr. Langston. Board chairwoman and Hollings. So David Grant. And General Counsel Teresa Miles. All veterans. All supposedly loyal. But now, any one of them, or more, could be involved in the embezzlement and cover-up. The elevator dinged. He stepped out into an eerie silence. The office lights on the 27th floor were dimmed. A few monitors blinked with error codes. Jay moved cautiously, phone in hand, ready to call security. Then he heard it, typing. Fast, frantic typing. He crept toward the boardroom and slowly pushed the door open. Inside, and Hollings was at the main terminal, USB plugged into the server, eyes locked on the screen. Her hands froze when she noticed him. Jay, she said coolly, you startled me. Jay didn't blink. What are you doing? And stood slowly, folding her arms. Trying to save this company from your father's mistakes. Jay stepped inside, eyes narrowing. You're behind the shell vendors. The phantom contracts. You used Olivia as a front. And chuckled, shaking her head. I'm behind more than you know. Your father, he was once brilliant. But somewhere along the line he got soft. Letting people like you run around pretending to be janitors. What this company needs is control. Structure. Profit. You mean corruption, Jay said sharply. And shrugged. Call it what you want. This company belongs to shareholders now, not your family. But you had to come in with your cleanup act. Your moral crusade. You started poking around in things you weren't ready to see. She stepped forward. You think this all ends with Olivia? She was a pawn. A useful one, yes, but she was disposable. I gave her enough rope to hang herself. And now you forced my hand. Jay backed up slightly but wasn't threatening him physically, yet. Her words were the weapon. Do you know how many contracts you just disrupted with your little investigation? She said. I have people in Washington, in Lagos, in Zurich. Real people. With real money. They don't take kindly to interns turned detectives. Jay raised his phone. Every word you're saying is being recorded. And smiled. Good. Then you'll have proof when I file for your termination tomorrow. Executive overreach. Breach of security. Abuse of authority. You overplayed your hand, little prince. Just then Mr. Langston entered. His face was pale, sweat dotting his forehead. Anne, he said panting, the system's locking me out. The firewall's coming up. I thought you said we had time. And shot him a glare. You fool. You triggered the failsafe. Jay stepped between them. It's too late. IT already has the breach logs. Your names are all over them. Langston cursed and turned toward Anne. You said the kid would be easy to discredit. And growled, he's not a kid. He's the heir. Suddenly the room lights snapped to full brightness. Mr. Ojomo entered with 3 security officers and Charles Pendleton. The CO looked worn but unwavering. Anne, he said with steel in his voice, Langston. You've both just triggered federal audit protocols. I have FinCEN, SEC, and a forensic accounting firm on standby. Anne's eyes blazed. You're bluffing. Charles stepped forward and dropped a folder on the boardroom table. This is a sworn affidavit from a whistleblower inside Whitecrest Solutions. Turns out he's very talkative when you threaten him with prison time. Langston collapsed into the chair behind him. We're finished? Jay turned to his father. We need to lock them down before they vanish. And we still don't know who else is involved. Olivia mentioned more names. Charles nodded. Already ahead of you. But Jay, this goes deeper than money. And had help. Legal help. From someone you trusted. Jay's heart stopped. Who? Charles looked grim. Teresa. General counsel. She's been feeding information to a rival company. Everything from trade secrets to legal vulnerabilities. Jay reeled. That's why she never pushed back on shady contracts. She made it look legitimate. Charles said, we've set a trap. But it's going to require you to play a dangerous role. One where Teresa believes you've joined her side. Jay's eyes widened. You want me to go undercover again? His father nodded. This time deeper than ever. You'll be walking into a den of wolves. Just then Jay's phone buzzed. A new message. Unfamiliar number. It read, we know what you're planning. Stop digging, or we'll bury more than just your legacy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Jay stared at the message on his phone, the words chilling in their simplicity. We know what you're planning. Stop digging, or we'll bury more than just your legacy. It wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration of war. He looked up at his father, eyes burning with resolve. They know we're coming. Which means we can't hesitate. Charles gave a firm nod. Agreed. The moment we show fear, they win. They had one shot to take down the entire network, and Langston, Teresa, and anyone else embedded within or outside the company trying to strip Pendleton Industries of its core. That evening, Jay stepped into a private lounge at a luxury hotel downtown, alone. This was where the final meeting would take place. Teresa Miles had agreed to meet him, believing he was ready to switch sides. Jay had played his part well, planting subtle signs of disillusionment, leaking harmless, insider information to bait her, even dropping hints that he was willing to sell off some of the company's assets for personal gain. Teresa, confident in her manipulation skills, bought it all. She arrived right on time, dressed impeccably in a gray skirt suit, her voice silky smooth. Jay, she said warmly, sliding into the seat across from him. I knew you'd come around. Idealism can only last so long in business. Jay leaned in. You were right. This place, it's broken. It needs new leadership. Ruthless leadership. Teresa smiled, pleased. You're starting to think like a real Pendleton. Your father's been in the way for too long. Sentimental. But with your access we can restructure everything. Sell off the dead weight. Merge with Altara Holdings. Cut out the fat. You'll be richer than him by 35. She slid over a small folder. Inside, documents. Transfer agreements. Asset diversion plans. Her full blueprint. She had no idea she just handed him her entire confession. Jay's hands trembled slightly as he closed the folder. And what about the others? Langston? Teresa scoffed. Sacrifices. They've served their purpose. Once we secure control, they'll be phased out. Quietly. She took a sip of her drink. You just focus on getting me access to your father's private server and board voting rights. The rest? I'll handle. Jay stood. Actually, that won't be necessary. Teresa blinked. What? Suddenly, 2 FBI agents stepped out from the adjoining suite, flashing badges. Behind them, Charles Pendleton appeared, followed by a state auditor and a forensic investigator. Teresa's face dropped. Her drink shattered on the floor. What is this? She hissed, standing up. Jay held up a small recording device. Everything you just said, was broadcast live to Pendleton HQ. "You've been under surveillance since last week." Teresa lunged forward, eyes wild. "You little?" The FBI agents intercepted her, slapping cuffs on her wrists. "Teresa Miles, you're under arrest for corporate espionage, embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy to defraud shareholders." As they escorted her out, she screamed, "You think this ends with me? There are others, bigger than you." Jay remained still. "Come." But inside his heart raced. She was right. The rot went deeper. But today they'd taken a giant step toward cleaning house. Back at Pendleton headquarters the next morning, Charles stood beside his son at a press conference. News cameras flashed. Journalists hung on every word. "Today," Charles began, "marks the start of a new era at Pendleton Industries. One of accountability, transparency, and transformation. I'm proud to announce that my son, Jaden Pendleton, will now serve as Chief Operating Officer effective immediately." Gasp. Applause. Jay stepped forward. "I came here as a janitor. I cleaned your floors. I emptied your trash. I watched. I listened. And I learned who we really are. Some of you treated me like nothing. Others treated me with kindness. To those who stood up, even when you didn't know who I was, you're the reason this company will thrive again." That afternoon, Jay met with Carla, Melanie, Mr. Ojomo, and others who had shown character. Promotions, raises, full-time contracts. One by one, the people who mattered were recognized. As for Olivia, she was handed over to authorities along with Langston and Anne. Her flash drive had been copied and used to uncover dozens of hidden transactions that saved the company millions. Jay watched her being escorted from the premises, her once confident smirk long gone. She paused as she passed him. "You think you won. But companies like this, people like you, they never change." Jay didn't blink. "You're right," he said. "They only change when someone forces them to." She was gone. In the weeks that followed, Jay worked day and night, overhauling hiring practices, establishing ethics committees, and ensuring every department from janitorial to legal was given the same respect. The culture began to shift. People looked each other in the eye. Elevators didn't close on quiet interns. Names were remembered. Humanity was restored. Jay stood one evening at the rooftop terrace, looking out over the city, his father beside him. "You've done well, son," Charles said. "Mom would be proud." Jay nodded. "I didn't just want to fix the company. I wanted to fix what people thought it meant to be powerful." Charles looked at him. "And what do you think now?" Jay replied, "Power is nothing if it doesn't protect the people at the bottom." They stood in silence, the skyline glowing with possibility. Never judge a person by their appearance or position. True leadership is defined by humility, integrity, and courage, not titles, suits, or paychecks. Kindness is the currency of character. And sometimes the janitor you ignore today is the boss you'll answer to tomorrow. Treat everyone with dignity, because greatness doesn't always walk in wearing a name badge. Sometimes it carries a mop. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths.